Hello and welcome back. So sorry about the delay on this video. I was trying to hit one every quarter, but StatCheck had like a weird thing where it just wasn't updating, and I think it was linked to the whole BCP thing. For those of you who don't know, Best Coast Pairings is like the website that people use to organize events, and a lot of people got tournament data from that, and I think StatCheck was one of them that used to create, win rates and all that. And I don't exactly know the situation, you'll have to look into it, but they basically were denying, I guess, the way that people were taking out data, and that caused StatCheck to not really update. I think that's what it was, I'm not 100% sure, but StatCheck wasn't updating for a while, and that's like primarily the source that I use, so yeah, that's why this one is a little late, but we're still calling it quarter two. We're still going to be looking at some of the things that have been going on in the past. Most notably, Chapter 2025 came out, and we are in the second patch of it, so to speak. And there's been a lot of shifts since we last covered, I guess, the meta as a whole. AdMech is surprisingly doing pretty well, and I don't necessarily know why. I think it's just that, like, we've gotten to a point where our things are just so cheap that they're pretty valuable. But we'll kind of get into that in a little bit. Speaking of cheap and valuable things, the Halo Screed battleclade, not that, that's the wrong word. The Servitor battleclade. They came out, so now we have servitors as well as gun servitors. I guess they're both the same. The unit is okay. I know a lot of people were looking at it saying like it was going to be insane because of the whole action monkey thing you can do, and I think once the hype died down a little bit, it's kind of just shown to be exactly what I thought it would be, which is just another action monkey. I've heard good things about it, but you know, nothing that's like super wild. So for 60 points, you basically get a 10-man brick, I believe. And the biggest downside about these guys is that they don't have battle line, which I really wish they did, because they do have the Cult Mechanicus keyword, and that would have helped boost Data Som Conclave a little bit more. What they do come with, though, is an extra arc rifle, a heavy bolter, which we don't typically have, and then a melta, which is pretty nice, especially if they're not going to be like advancing to the mid board for the most part. They're probably going to stay in the back, like right between deployment zones, so that, you know, you can do something like recover assets or any sort of action that would need you to move somewhere. Like cleanse is another one, like in your expansion objective, so they can like move up and then do an action, right? And then they can also like shoot at the same time to like kind of plink off something that may be straggling nearby. I mean, an arc rifle shot is an arc rifle shot, right? But again, they're not the most accurate. The other thing is that they kind of, I don't know, I think they are basically competing for the same space as the Skystalkers and the Infiltrators in my book. I know they're 10 points cheaper, but you can usually like kind of maneuver your way through making those points open and available. And I think that both the Infiltrators and the Skystalkers massively outvalue the Servitor battleclade. Like, I don't think you ever take Servitors over one of those two, right? Like, you'd already have to have at least one or two of each to even consider them, in my opinion. But that's just me. I could be wrong. But if there's one thing we have, it's movement and denying, and the battleclade just kind of doesn't do that as well as the other two, in my opinion. But they're good action monkeys. It also fights a spot with the Raiders, specifically in terms of points costs, and 10 bodies and 10 wounds is a lot better than 3 bodies on 3 wounds. But man, Raiders are fast as fuck, and you don't shoot them anyway. Like, for the most part, you don't shoot them. You just reactive move and then just fucking advance, right? So the battleclade is a lot slower. Yes, you can give them assault, but you can also give Raiders assault. So there's that. The only difference is that one can't do an action, but the other one can fly across the board if you need it. So I don't know. I wasn't really excited for it. I'm still not really excited for it. I don't think it's. I know some people were saying that this is going to be like one of the best action units in the game. I think that was maybe a little silly. So looking at the first chart, this is the chapter approved missions on our current quote-unquote patch, which is like 1.1, I think. This is after that. I think it's after the patch where we got our bots with the imperatives rules. Whatever data slate was the most recent, which I'm pretty sure was that one, because that's the same data slate that Scorpius dropped by 10. You can see that AdMech has a 53% win rate. Now, this is still ongoing, so the data is pretty inconclusive for the most part. I don't think we're going to stay at 53, but we have been in the higher ends of 40, so you can see we have a detachment win rate of Rad Zone Core at 75, I think that is, but the population of that is 4. So it's kind of like that one Data Som Conclave player that had a 100% win rate, but he was literally the only one that played it. Speaking of Data Som, they're at 40, but they have the same play percentage. Then you have Cohort Cybernetica, which has been seeing a resurgence, at 57, tied with Skitarii Hunter Cohort, and then Halo's Creed Battleclade sitting at about 40, a little bit higher than 40, 48. And that's still the most played detachment. Almost 60% of the population of AdMech players are playing that one. So not a surprise there. It's kind of always been Halo's Creed Skitarii Hunter Cohort, but Cohort Cybernetica is definitely starting to ramp up. That might be due to the points being decreased on a lot of key units for Cohort Cybernetica, but they're also just good. Like, they're just like, we've gotten to a point where they're just good because they're cheap. So, and into night meta particularly, the FERRUMITE cannons are really, really nice to have. So, you know, definitely not something to just kind of wave away. So looking at the stats as a whole, after the release of the new chapter approved 2025, AdMech is sitting at about 48, which is, again, pretty surprising. But then again, we're only a couple of weeks into chapter 25. A 4% 4-0 event start, not great. 1 event win, also not great, but not bad compared to, you know, us having 0 for a majority of the edition. Normal overrep 1.0, I think, if I remember correctly from when I heard the stat check guys talk, it's basically where you want to be. And then at the top we can also see Rad Zone Core, again 75% win rate but only 1% played, basically what we saw before, except Halo's Creed is a little bit lower this time, and Cybernetica actually took it over in terms of win rate. So that kind of leads me to what I kind of wanted to just talk about, which is Cohort Cybernetica. Now, in the last video I made, I talked about how this attachment has always been pretty solid, but it's just that we've seen so many buffs to the chassis that people would run in Cybernetica time and time again, that it's just become so points efficient that, you know, it's just good. The problem with the Scorpius Disintegrator though is that it's a little bit swingy, right? So the worst part about it is that it's a dedicated tank that hits on 4s, right? Which is not fun, but you could make it hit on 2s, and that's kind of the playstyle that Cybernetica leans into. It's very tank heavy and heavy. Like you want to kind of keep them still drawing lines and you know, getting that +2 to hit. The good part is that the FERRUMITE cannon, as long as it's hitting something that's a monster vehicle, it can move and still hit on a 2+, because it doesn't need to rely on heavy, whereas like the disruptor missiles do. The one part that I'm never the biggest fan of is the fact that the damage for the FERRUMITE is d6 + 1 and the disruptor is d6. So that kind of hurts, to be honest. Yeah, just not having a way to reroll damage rolls. I mean, we don't have like a Predator Annihilator equivalent, basically. It's a lot of shots and you can have 3 of them for relatively cheap. That's the nice part. Hell, I've seen some lists go triple disintegrators with a couple of last cannon chickens just to be safe. Then there's obviously the really funny triple dissy double crab, and some people don't even run phosphors. Like, twin phosphor blasters are like the best catch-all, but like I've seen people slap on neutron beamers, which is hilarious. Just to like really double down, because I mean, if we're talking about the meta as a whole right now, there's the you know, the tank, or not the tank, rather the super heavy meta, so to speak, and I consider Death Guard to an extent super heavy because they're so hard to remove. So Knights, right? FERRUMITE cannon has that 12 strength breakpoint, which is really nice. The chickens, you can take a bunch of them. And then I think the thing that Cybernetica Cohort is best at is the fact that it can blank the damage with Necromechanic and reliably push out damage. The problem with that is that whether it can survive as long as, you know, as it needs to for an onslaught of like Death Shroud Terminators or something like that. That is a good reason why people still take the Twin Heavy Phosphor, because it does 2-tap a Death Shroud, but it's not very good into Knights. But then, you know, it doesn't matter, because then you just have triple Disintegrators. I still like Halo's Creed a lot. It's still the detachment that I personally play, but I have been eyeing Cohort Cybernetica because it was one of the detachments that I played the most back in Pariah Nexus. So it's only getting better and better. You know, those FERRUMITEs getting +1 a hit are pretty good. If you remember, you have to remember that they do in fact get +1 a hit against monsters and vehicles. And then your Castellans are pretty gross too. Again, Castellans are still kind of iffy because Cohort Cybernetica, yes, focuses on bots just for the detachment rule though. So you can either double into like a traditional gun line with call on the back, giving reroll 1s to hit on the dissies, and then basically just making them connect, and you know, more often than not wounding. But you know, bots they're so high risk, high reward in my opinion. They're still really good when they pop off, but you know, I think if you're going Cohort Cybernetica, you're wanting to do a gun line with action pieces, and you are basically doing a protector list for the most part. The only time I ever see you going into Conquer is if you need to draw line of sights, or if you really need that -4 AP breakpoint with your dissies. So again, this is kind of an overview of all the armies and where they currently stand. Imperial Agents is at the top simply because they have no data, to the best of my knowledge. This is overall. Chaos Knights have actually taken the top, as opposed to Imperial Knights, who are usually leading the charge. Gene Stealer cults are really strong. That might be one of the reasons why we're so high in percentage right now, because if there's anything that AdMech is really good into, it's T3 armies. And Gene Stealer cults right now, I'm pretty sure they're just running like Host of Ascension spam, basically, with small bodies just overwhelming you. And you know, we are Stubber the army. We have like 18 shots of Stubber fires coming from every single Scorpius chassis, on top of the fact that like Dune Crawlers just have them stapled to them. And then of course our battle line are actually pretty effective into T3 battle line, for an enemy battle line rather. Death Guard is at 56. I think they're also kind of the same approach as Knights, maybe a little bit less, because they're more Death Guard, short of Mortarian's Hammer, is mostly just elite spam, so you just have to be able to get that 4 breakpoint. So really just investing two damage shots as opposed to you know, like 2-3 damage shots, because that's a lot of wasted potential there. Unfortunately, we don't have any like damage 4 or anything, so but then there's Yukari, and then there's us, which is again really interesting. The fact that we're all the way up there is a sight to behold, but I think it's a very temporary sight. You know, we've seen ourselves hop up to, you know, or rather we've seen ourselves dip down to 20 and then immediately hop up to like 56. So it's very volatile. The meta right now is very, very, very skewed. It's really hard to get a read on something right now, because you know, everything is just so up in the air. I mean, people were talking about getting an emergency data slate, so you know, it's really hard to just say like, oh, AdMech is healthy now. I don't think that's the case. But that is basically everything that I kind of wanted to chat about. A little bit lighter, free-flowing video here. Yeah, I don't know. It's very interesting. Some of the armies that are at the very top are like really, really in the top. So, you know, having a consistent player base like that, and consistent wins and 4-0 events, while also maintaining a steady win rate, like not like ours where it dips to 20, goes up to 53, goes down to 42. It is consistently in the upper 50s. I think it's just showing that time after time these armies are leading the board. and I think it's about time that something is done about it. So again, I never advocate for any army being plummeted to the ground. I wouldn't wish that any army sits next to us in the void, but that does it for today. Yeah, I don't think I have any closing statements. Advanced.gg, go check out their stuff. It's very tasty, and it helps me stay alive, because caffeine is basically just a substitute for my blood now. And then I'll have a more, I guess, official video here out in a little bit. I was hunting down some sources and stuff, and that's why that video has been taking a long time, because I thought I was having a schizophrenic episode. I was like, I'm pretty sure this existed. I don't know why I can't find this thing AdMech related. You guys will see what I'm talking about. But yeah, that one should be coming out shortly. So sorry for the little lack of upload there. But hopefully this video can tide you guys over for just a little bit longer. I promise something will be out. I haven't abandoned the channel yet. But yeah, thanks. If you liked hearing me yap, like, subscribe, comment about how I yap too much, and I will see you next time. Goodbye. A special thank you to all my Patreons in the Engines tier, and a special thank you to the Fabricator tier with 3x01, 74th Inquisitorial Task Force, Atura, Siglosson Jr., Dr. Jones, Dr. Dogorino, Makito, Rising Grace, Rock'em Sock'em Robots, Sekartor, Snoofalufugus, and Tech Priest Thorn. Thank you guys.